double fed, sick leave, and VA meds on today's Fednobabble. Welcome to today's Fednobabble, where we take your questions and we talk about the federal employee benefits and how they work in retirement and make them understandable for humans in less than 20 minutes.
Yep. And we take your questions from the Fednobabble.com website or from the workshops that I do, and we answer them here to try to clear up all the confusion, because I cannot believe how much confusion there is of federal employees about their benefits. It's amazing. Sometimes, Cassie, no joke. Okay, obviously this hasn't happened because lately we've been doing webinars because we can't get together in real life. But there have been plenty of times where after the workshop is over, I have people come up and give me a big hug and say, "Thank you so much." I mean, it's awesome. It is. It's a big love fest after that, because they say, "I have no idea that." Wow, they're amazed at it. Anyways, all right, let's jump into the first question. Question number 1. Oh, I did it again. Look at that. Question number 1.
All right.
What if
I retire from the federal government? Can I get another federal job and still get my retirement?
So
how many times like,
yeah, it sounds like they want to retire and then unretire and still get the pension.
Yeah. So that's just not possible. I
think they closed that loop.
Give you a pension and a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not really how that works. But so you can collect both. And there are a number of different ways of like leaving one federal job or position, how that transition can happen, right? It depends on the length of time. Did you submit your retirement paperwork and then are you going to get to another agency, or just, like right away? Like, how does that, what is the thinking behind this?
Right.
Because are you separating from service, retiring, and then moving somewhere else and hoping to get another federal job, right? Yeah. So essentially, though, they're not going to be able to collect both either way.
Right.
But you don't want to submit your retirement paperwork and then just transition into another federal job, because it's just going to create a lot of stuff there that's unnecessary.
Yeah. I've heard of people leaving and then they get a call 6 months later saying, "We've got to have you come back, at least part-time. Can you do that?" And they're like, "Okay, I'm getting bored. I got to do something. I might as well go help and do what I know and get paid for it." Is that possible, do you think?
It's definitely possible, right? But they're not going to receive their pension.
Right. Not at the same time.
Their paycheck. No. The government will realize that there's now working again, and they will essentially suspend the pension. I mean, and there's different factors here that can come into play too, but essentially their pension gets suspended and then they just receive their paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And you really got to be careful.
But how long time they're going to be employed too.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they're going to be employed, then your whole pension gets recalculated. It's just this big, big mess. Okay. It's a re-employed annuitants. There's a lot of different factors and information and different situations and exceptions that happen all the time. Yeah. Right? So you really have to make sure that you're talking with somebody who understands federal benefits and how that's going to affect your specific situation. Good place to do that is a financial advisor who understands federal benefits, right? Yep. So that way they can tell you whether it's even financially worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Because if someone goes to HR and says, oh, should I do this or can I do this? They may give factual information that yes, you can. Should you do it is a completely different question. Whether it's
Yep.
financially better, whether it's mentally better, psychologically better. I mean, you know, for your family, is it even better? I mean, basically, if you're
Mhm.
going to work with a financial advisor, financial planner, they're going to tell you they're actually, a lot of times what I've seen is they say, financially, can you do it? Yes. Is it, they may say it's about the same. It doesn't matter whether you do or don't. But then they start asking you questions like, how does your family feel about this? They obviously can't
Right.
give advice on the family front, but then they've done this so often that they can ask questions that they know that they have seen other clients go through before where they had really tough times. Say, have you ever thought of this? Were you ever thinking about moving? I remember you said you were thinking about moving somewhere. Is that even possible? And bring up all these things that they may not have thought of in the first place.
Exactly. I actually had a friend do this. It wasn't directly with the federal government, though. So he retired from government service, and then he went back and worked with the contractors for a little while.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
That
And he
happens a
only did
lot.
it for a little bit because then the whole point of retirement is to do things that you can't do otherwise, right?
Right.
And to spend time with your spouse and everything else. And his spouse was like, hold the phone, right? You're going to be gone for 6 months. No, that's not what I had planned for us.
Right. Yep. I remember
So,
one guy. I said, "What do you want to do in retirement?" And it was a guy, and he brought his wife, his non-federal wife, with him. I said, "What do you want to do in retirement?" And he said, "Oh, I want to do this and this and this." And she looks at him and said, "And when were you gonna tell me that?" In front of the whole class. It was great. And we played off
yeah,
that the whole time. It was great.
right. Yeah, you definitely have to sit down. Not only make sure that it makes financial sense to even get back into federal service, but you might want to talk to your spouse. It's probably the best advice we could give.
Maybe. Okay, question number 2. Does sick leave have any bearing on retirement? Now, I put this question in because we know that the answer is yes. It does. But this is really interesting. I would say about a third of the time in my workshops, I will talk about how sick leave gets is factored into retirement, and then I get to the end of talking about pensions, and then the question comes up and says, "So what does sick leave have to do with this?" And every time I think I just said it. But it must be in a way that just goes whoo right over the heads or something. I don't know what it is. But
You've got to
Cassie,
figure
you
it
talk
out.
about that.
You
You
need to
talk about what does
understand
sick
this.
leave do?
All right, sick leave automatically adds to your years and months of service in your pension calculation.
Right.
Right. So they use the 2087 sick leave chart. You can Google that if you really want to and find out exactly how much sick leave can add to your years and months of service. Right. But essentially, if you get 2087 hours, you can add a whole year to that pension calculation.
Right.
Okay.
Now that may just be, if you worked 30 years, that's just 1/30th more. So some people may say, well, that's not worth the money, right? But they have to remember that that's money, extra money for the rest of their lives, compounded on top with COLA again and again and again.
That's right. Not only that, but I don't think people realize that it can, if you're like, oh, well, I've only got 29 years of service or what have you. And it doesn't stop at 2087 either. Right.
Right.
Let me back up there. It doesn't stop at that. That's not some magic number that, oh, I've got a year and that's all the sick leave I can earn.
Right.
Okay. This is something that you can continually unlimited build up and add to that pension amount. So I want to do one one word of caution though, for FERS employees, if you've reached age 62 with 20 years of service, then they get that 10% bump.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
That extra, they get that 1.1 percentage factor rather than the 1.0. So if you have 19 years of service and you'll be 62 and you have, 2,100 hours of sick leave, your 2,100 hours cannot bump you into that 20-year mark to get that extra 10%. You have to have actually 20 years in service.
Right.
It will obviously increase the amount that you can add to your pension later. So you might have to wait till 63 to retire to get that 20 years of service. But then you have, obviously will have more, 21 years and plus with that sick leave added. So that could be a big difference. Because then not only are you making sure that you get that extra 10% in your pension, but it's an extra year with that 10% in your pension too, plus your high 3 is increased. And so there's a lot of different factors that we need to think about here as well. But when it save, because that can really help in your retirement.
Right. Unless you're mentally, you just can't handle it anymore. And you can't retire until such and such day, but you need to take as many days as you can away because it's just not working for you. Okay. There's always the financial and mental aspects of this.
Yes, but not all agencies will allow you to use that much sick leave either.
Right.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
It's per agency basis. Talk with the HR department and see if you're trying to use that sick leave there. But, again, Google the chart or talk to one of our trusted advisors, or if you have a financial advisor who's versed in the federal benefits, and obviously talk to them and find out how much of a difference it makes to your pension, and if it's worth it for you to continue saving or use it before you go. So
it's good to look at two sets of numbers. If you use it, how much do you get? If you don't use it, how much do you get? And what is the difference 20 years from now? 20 years from retirement, what does that look like? It's always good to kind of project out as well. And then you look at that and say, oh, maybe I ought to reconsider. Happens all the time.
Right. And our report does that. When people submit their information and we're providing that report to them, we're not just giving them that snapshot of what's going to happen now. We're projecting out what does it look like in the future. So that way they can make sure that they're planning properly.
Great. All right. Question number 3. If the VA covers 100% of my medical, do I still have to enroll and pay into Medicare? I get this question all the time. What do you think, Cassie?
Well, I was going to ask you how you answer that one, Kevin.
Okay. So this is what I've seen. This is a difficult one to answer because if the VA covers 100% of my medical, I see that happen. Here's what I hear from federal employees. My mom or my dad they were in the service and they didn't get everything taken care of by the VA. They had 100% medical coverage because they were 70% service disabled. So everything was taken care of for them. But we lived in an area where the VA didn't cover it very well, and so they didn't get the care that they wanted. Or we tried to get service, and we couldn't get service for them. The VA was backed up 6 months, and we needed it now. So I don't know a great answer to this question, except for it's possible to live in a place that doesn't take VA very well. I mean, I know if you're so far away from a VA facility that they will pay for your regular care, but I have even heard that kind of gets sketchy sometimes. and sometimes it takes a long time to get care. And so I would just see where you live, figure out what kind of care you think you might need, and what are the probabilities of getting the care when you need it. Because if you don't, then maybe getting into Medicare and keeping obviously your TRICARE and keeping Medicare Part B. You have to do Medicare Part B, period, if you do TRICARE. And maybe putting FEHB on suspend, doing all those things can make sure that you're going to get covered no matter what happens. And I hate that that happens to our veterans who have sacrificed so much, and now the government doesn't take care of them like they say they would sometimes. And that's not VA's. And this is kind of funny as well. I get people coming into our class saying, well, are you kidding? Well, the government will just shaft you every turn you go, right? And I think you are the government. you, but I get it. You're not the ones who make the policies and the decisions. You're the ones who just carry it out. And we're so thankful for people like you who carry it out. And it's a much bigger of a deal when it comes to policy. It's just not people, it's the politics and everything behind that. So not a great answer,
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so there's a lot, I think, that essentially this boils down to the health planning aspect of your retirement benefits, right? What is VA actually covering for you? Is that going to be enough coverage? What other coverage do you have besides the VA? Do you have FEHB? Do you have TRICARE? Right? Obviously, if you have TRICARE, then you have to enroll in Medicare Parts A and B. And if you're in FEHB, then you should enroll in Medicare Parts A and B. And there's certain FEHB plans that can help with the Medicare costs, or at least reimburse you for those.
Right.
And so there's different factors here that you really need to think about when it comes to that coverage. Okay, and that's why it's strongly important to talk with somebody who's going to help you plan for that, because you also don't want to be stuck with some outrageous medical bill that maybe VA only covers a portion of. What about hospital coverage? Are they covering that? Is that something that's important to you?
What about long-term care?
Exactly. And so there's all of these different factors that need to be addressed. And this is a very uncomfortable conversation. And I think it's one of the most difficult conversations to have with federal employees, because they automatically think, I have this coverage, I have that coverage, and I'm solid, and that's good. And they don't really think that there are different strategies to make sure that they're not paying for more coverage that they need, but they're also in the right programs that they need to have to make sure that they have the coverage that they need, because they don't want to be under covered either when it comes to medical coverage. And so, and of course, who doesn't want to pay the least amount that they can for the coverage that they need? Because healthcare costs are on the rise significantly.
Yep.
I mean, it's average, 4.5% over 10 years right now. You've got to financially plan for that increase on top of any catastrophic situations that can happen, right? So I really just think that this boils down to talk with your financial advisor. If you don't have one, let us know. Let us get you in touch with a financial advisor who understands federal benefits, because this is simply an uncomfortable conversation that they're used to having, because this is one piece of the puzzle that is so huge that a lot of people miss, right? If your financial advisor isn't talking with you about that, get a new one.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's important. And not that I'm trying to tell them what to do, but simply I want people to have the awareness that they need to do the due diligence to make sure that they're solid, their retirement plan is solid, right? That they're set up for financial success. And the biggest, I would say two of the biggest things that people don't take into consideration when we're doing retirement planning is healthcare and taxes.
Yep.
Those get so often, and they just simply, there isn't enough awareness and enough information out there for people to do their own planning and for them to really understand how it all works together.
You know, you mentioned a number of plans. You mentioned a financial plan. You mentioned a healthcare plan. You mentioned a tax plan. You mentioned there was another plan. Oh, there's a mental plan, right? Uh, a plan to make sure that everything goes well with your spouse plan. I mean, there are
Oh boy.
so many things to be thinking of rather than what's the government give me. The questions should go far, far beyond that. So if you would like to talk to one of the advisors in our trusted network, go to fednobabble.com and we will make sure that you will get a report that Cassie will create right there. Smiling
That's right.
Cassie, she will create it and it will show you your financial options there and everything that you should be looking at. So important to get that. So again, fednobabble.com, you can sign up for it there. It's free, no cost, no obligation, nothing like that. We just want federal employees to understand their benefits. What was that?
That's right. That's right. No pitch.
Yep.
No sales pitch for financial advisors either. They simply want to have you understand exactly what you have now so they can help you if you need it to plan for that future. And at least if they're not going to help you plan for the future, at least give you the different pitfalls that could happen, right? Here's what we're not planning for. So that way you have some thinking to do and can create that plan. So either way, super helpful to have that information because it really lays out what your future looks like because you've got to do something. So
Yep.
Let's set you up for financial success. Also, please like, subscribe, share, get the information out so that way people can also, give us feedback and let us know how we're doing. We want to be able to make sure that federal employees have the information that they need and answers to questions. So also submit your questions at fednobabble.com too. And if we use them, obviously we'll give you a t-shirt or something. So
Great.
thanks for coming.
Thanks. Take care.